Whether you're a buyer that's jumping into market and you want to know the best way to negotiate in the spring market here in Central Maine, or maybe you're a seller and you want to know if interest rates are putting a little damper on your ability to sell your home, stick around. We have the April market update. You're not going to want to miss this one. Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. It is Central Maine's realtor Nick Isgro here with eXp Realty. And as I just stated at the beginning, today I'm going to get into all of the relevant numbers like we do every month here on this channel so that you, regardless of where you are in the real estate market here in Central Maine, are going to be the most prepared you can possibly be to get the best deal out there regardless of which side of the transaction you're on. And before I get into any of that, I want to welcome you here to the channel. If you've never been here before, we cover all things real estate here in the state of Maine, but particularly right here in the Central Maine market. Now, if that is of interest to you or adds value to your process in the buying and selling of homes, or maybe you're just interested in the real estate market here in Central Maine, do me a favor, go ahead and like this video, hit subscribe, knock that little alarm bell. You'll be notified every time I put out new content. As always, I want to jump right in at the top here with new listings. New listings coming out of the month of March, headed into April, 118 new listings. Now, this is really welcome news if you are a buyer in the market. Buyers have been out there. They've been looking at aging stock with a lot of, frankly, non-replacement level inventory coming into the market, and it's been a very frustrating scenario. So we've had this situation where, after the market cooled down last fall, buyers cooled off, sellers were still selling the homes. Then as sellers have entered back into the market over this last winter, kind of late winter market into January, February, March, new homes coming into the market has been kind of an issue. So this jump is definitely welcome, especially as we're headed into April, hoping to see those numbers bump up a little bit more so we can have a robust spring market as we kick it off right here in Central Maine. Now the one thing to really be aware of, if we look back 1 year ago, we had 179 new listings added in the same time period. So to keep it all in perspective, this is welcome news. It's not the market we were in last year. We're still not adding the kind of homes to the market that we'd like to see in order to get this market really humming. So that was it for new listings. Now I want to jump into looking at the sales activity being inclusive of pended listings as homes going into escrow during the month of March that are still out there waiting to be closed, waiting to transfer hands, and the ones that actually closed, that would be the sold listings. Now, if you remember, last month we saw a big dip in the pended sales. That was homes going into escrow. A lot of that we talked about being the result generally of people, buyers in the market, not really seeing the kind of inventory they want. Because when we know right now what we're seeing is a return, frankly, of multi-offer scenarios when the home is in that nice niche. It's that, it's priced right, it looks right, it's marketed right. Those homes are getting a lot of activity in the first few days, at least the first few weeks, and they're going into contract at the very least, a lot of them having multiple offers in front of them. So if that's not happening, then that means that buyers are maybe backing off a little bit. And a lot of that, again, linked back to that lack of new supply. There's just not a lot of new homes to look at. So what's going on? We're gonna bring up pended listings. Pended listings, 67, not really a big improvement from last month, a little slight bump, but when there weren't that many new listings coming on comparatively last month, not a huge surprise that we didn't see a ton more activity here. So pended listings not taking a big jump, but bumping up just a little bit during this last month. Of course, it probably also bears mentioning here that we did have a massive bank failure over the last month. Interest rates did go down a little bit. There's now concern about the interest rates going back up. There's a lot of unknown factors in the market that are going to be playing into some of these numbers as well. I still think it has a lot to do with more of that replacement inventory that we've seen coming into the market. Now, 67 pended listings. Where were we a year ago? 138. Look at the graph. If you look at where we were, I always like to look at the trends. Yes, we're kind of bumping on this low scale here, but a year ago we were way above that. Now, a year ago we had many more new listings coming into the market every month. We just said that when we looked at new listings. That would make sense that if there's a ton of new listings coming on, a lot more homes for people to look at, more of those going to go under contract. Going to be interesting to see how this plays out over the next couple of months, assuming we see what we saw this month, which was more new listings coming on. I would imagine April, May, and June, those numbers are going to follow the historic trend of moving upwards. All right, let's look at sold listings. Sold listings, again, a little bit of a bump, 93 homes sold during the last 30 days. Looking at that, not a huge improvement, again, just like the pended sales, but homes sold follows those pended numbers. So when you look at the pended numbers, you're gonna have a fairly good prediction of what next month's sold listings are going to look like, barring the ones that go really quick during the month, mainly the cash sales, which are certainly not the majority of sales that we're seeing right now into the market. Not really a big change there, not a lot to see. Overall, if we just do a quick recap, we saw, a little bit of a bump in new homes coming to the market, not much change going on in pended listings, not much change going on in sold listings, although each of those did have a little bit more. What's happening to the overall inventory numbers? Let's take a look at that. 166 active listings in Kennebec County right now on the market. Actually a little bit of a dip from last month. So that little bit of an increase in pended sales, a little bit of an increase in sold listings, that new inventory, and it's what we keep saying, not enough to replace like we need to get the kind of sales activity that we're looking for, or certainly that buyers are looking for, getting that inventory. And one thing I'll tell you right now, when we look at this inventory number, 166, it is actually more than we actually had a year ago. But a year ago, we had more sales activity, lots more homes coming onto the market, lots more viewings, lots more people going out and getting into those homes. Now we have a little bit more inventory than we had a year ago, but it's inventory everybody's seen. It's not a lot of new stuff turning over. Until that happens, I think we're going to be in somewhat of a holding pattern. In fact, one of the things, if you talk to any real estate agent right now, we're probably all of us driving a lot farther with buyers more than what we're used to, because buyers are looking at where is the inventory that they want. And a lot of times right now, we're driving outside of the markets we're used to, because the buyers we're working with, it may have had kind of this small area that they were looking for. They're just not finding it there. They're expanding that search out. We're going with them. We're showing them the inventory. We go where the inventory is. Speaking of inventory, let's take a look at that number really quick. This is always, again, a good indicator of whether we're going to really remain in a buyer's market, seller's market. I want to see what the supply is on the market. So once the supply is, if we were to take everything we have on the market now, sell it, get rid of it, and no new listings are coming to market, how long would it take to sell everything we have? Take a look at this. Just a little over 1 month, 1.04 months of supply. Now, if we look at last year, we had half a month of supply. So very, very squeezed. We do have more inventory than a year ago. However, a balanced market is 6 months of supply, where you kind of have an equilibrium between buyers and sellers. And that's why, and we'll get into days on market in a little bit, even though homes are starting to sit for a little bit longer in certain categories, even though we're seeing an overall a little bit larger supply in total than we had last year, we're not seeing the kind of churning of the market that we saw last year. And that has this inventory squeezed. And until we get more new active inventory on the market, even if it goes real quick and it shrinks the supply, more new inventory on the market, we just don't see much pressure happening with the pricing. And now let's jump over to that. We're gonna get into days on market and sale to list price ratio, so you can get a good rounded view. Now this is going to be a shocking number to you. It was certainly startling to me. I broke it down. I went into a few of the different towns to see what was going on there, because one of the things we're finding is that with so few listings on the market, a little bit of sales activity here, there, and everywhere adds up, and it impacts the numbers greater than if we had large numbers to work with. If I was looking at, a couple of weeks ago, trying to find a 3-bedroom, 2-bath house, there was like 4 listings in Waterville, 3 in Winslow, I think 3 in China, and maybe 1 or 2 in Oakland. But think about that. That's not a lot of inventory when you start breaking it out into subcategories. So a little bit of activity in any of those is going to cause a big impact on the market. What's happening to the days on market? Take a look at this. We went from 39 days up to 64 average days on market here in Kennebec County. That's a big jump. That's almost 30 extra days on the market. How did that happen in a 1-month period? Well, let's go back a little bit. Remember, not a lot of new inventory coming into the market. not a lot of new pending sales. Those pending numbers have been down for what, 3-4 months in a row now, which has driven the sales volume down. That means the homes that have been on the market are frankly just sitting a little bit longer. So if you're on the market and you are seeing like people go in a couple of days, that's just not the norm of what's happening in the market. However, if you're a seller, I want you to pay attention to this, because we are seeing homes get sold in one weekend. We're seeing crazy open house activity. We're seeing multiple offer activity. This is a great time, if you're a seller, to get your home in prime condition and you want to make sure you're marketing it right. Make sure you have your home cleaned up. Make sure it's staged. Make sure you have the knickknacks put away. Make sure you have professional photos taken. If all other things are considered equal, it's easy right now to make your home stand out and to get that sale, because there's a lot of stuff that hasn't gotten that quick sale that's on the market. However, let's say you're a seller, you're in the market now and you haven't gotten that quick sale. Is it time to panic? It's actually not really. We still have only a 1 month of supply, and that's why there's still not a ton of downward pressure on price. Let's get to that right now. Let's talk about price. Sale to list price ratio. This is how much of the list price our seller is getting, 99%. So in spite of longer market times, in spite of fewer pended sales and fewer sales happening, which is causing some of those longer market times, not a lot of downward pressure on price. And that's why I always have to go back to, it's inventory, inventory, inventory. That's the only thing that we can use to explain what's driving the pricing on these numbers, because yeah, stuff takes a little bit longer. And let's go back a little bit, by the way. 10 years ago, 6 months could have been considered normal. So if your home's on the market for 30 to 60 days, yes, that is definitely not how long you want to be out there. And you may want to look at your marketing. You may want to look at a price reduction, and we'll get to that in a little bit. But overall, people are still getting 99% of their list price. Now, the caveat here is this, and I brought this up before, sale to original list price, which I don't have shown here, is 96%. So there are some price reductions baked into that cake before we even get to this point of the final sale. And that's why right now pricing is super important. If you have a top of the line house, no matter what category, and if you are priced correctly and marketed correctly, you're still gonna get a quick sale. You're still gonna get really, most of what you're asking for, if not exactly what you're asking for. So we're seeing that in the market. But as we're seeing from some of these other numbers, if you're a seller, buyers are getting picky. Look, they're gonna spend, 6-7% on a mortgage. They're going to be a little bit pickier, and they're not going to just act out of haste right now. We're not seeing a lot of that kind of activity. Even on the multi-offer scenarios, we're seeing a lot of contingencies, still looking at inspection periods, still negotiating through that with the seller. So we're seeing that kind of hyperactivity on some of these listings. But even there, buyers are getting pickier, and it's bringing both sides to the table in still what is a more normalized transaction compared to where we were a year ago. All right, I'll wrap this thing up for you. A median sales price, everybody wants to see that. Just gives us a good trend of what's happening with pricing. $260,000. As you can see from this graph, I don't really need to break this down. Obviously, sales activity in any given category is going to bump this a little bit from month to month when you look at the numbers. But overall, the big story, if we look at the whole last year, not a lot of change. Prices are holding steady. Again, only 1 month of inventory, totally driving that number. So, all right, that's it. That's the market in a nutshell. Getting very interesting out there. Going to be more interesting as we get into this heavy springtime. What's happening? What I would expect to see is new listings going up. I'm expecting to see days on market go down. How much? I'm not really sure. And I expect prices to remain fairly steady. I don't expect a massive increase, don't expect really any decrease at this time. So if you're in the market right now, whatever your thoughts are, what's going on with you guys, always love to hear from you. Drop a comment below, give me your thoughts, let me know what you think. Would love your predictions as what's going to happen over the next year as well. Of course, if you're in the market and you're looking for an agent, or maybe you just want to kind of run the numbers with somebody, go over this with somebody who has the market knowledge and can guide you and get you from point A to point B, all of my contact information is linked in the post below. Feel free to reach out. Would love to catch up with you. Of course, as always, I thank each and every one of you for sticking around to the end of this video. And until the next one, I'll see you next time.
Oh,